This is the Running Channel podcast with me, Sarah Hartley, Rick Kelsey, and another person who I'm sure you'll hear something of during this episode. Today, we're talking about how did runners measure distance and time before smartwatches, which unfortunately we are going to have to hear from Andy in this episode because he's been around so long, he might actually have the answer. And we're going to answer your questions too and some running news. Let's crack on.
No, you didn't say anything at all.
No, my name's Andy Baddeley, by the way.
Oh, right.
Do I not get an intro at all?
No,
I thought she was going to say, did you
now.
carry one of those big kind of grandfather clocks around with you?
Yes.
Just a sundial.
Just with the
strapped to his back.
brilliant, like a turtle.
And as you ran past, you'd just be like, can someone tell me what the time is?
No, I just took a stick and I just plant it in the sand and then I would take a compass bearing and know exactly what time it was.
You know what?
Perfect.
You joke about a stick, but actually, that comes into the story.
Okay, well, I
Settle
can't
in.
wait. That's what we're going to be talking about, is about the how we measured distance and time before smartwatches. But Sarah's been on holiday and she's come back. So actually, before you give us a little I don't know, story about where you've been on holiday and how your running's been going, I've got something that I think feeds into this.
Oh, good.
We had a lovely email from someone who's really positive about the podcast and said lots of nice things about us. But he said you were his favourite
Yeah, obviously.
and described how he really loved your brand of loving snarkiness.
Yeah, that's
But
me.
I'm not sure how much love there is there, to be honest. It's just
Loving
snarkiness.
As in, I
snarkiness.
love snarkiness. It's not loving snarkiness.
Oh, I thought well, he definitely meant that it was loving towards both Rick and I.
Yeah, so how would you
no.
describe snarky?
Sarah Hartley. It's actually the online definition.
Yeah,
of
you
it.
did
I did that.
it.
Dictionary.
You know what I did there?
It's
I
just
just
a
put the T in the
picture, yeah.
grass for you, Andy.
Yeah, exactly.
You struck it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, I've been on holiday. It was lovely. A whole week away from you two.
Yeah, Italy, was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, looks like you had a nice time. A lot of running?
Not a lot of running, actually. I
No.
did 2 runs and then a bit of cycling. So I kind of substituted out like easy runs for cycling and swimming instead, and paddleboarding, which is a workout in itself. But I did one really nice tempo run. Like along the flat, and then I did one run. We were staying near one lake, and then one morning we were going towards another lake. So I was like, oh, it's only 8k, I'll run there. Then I looked at the elevation and it was 500 meters of elevation within
my
8k,
gosh.
but actually then when you break it down, it was 500 meters of elevation in about 3k.
That's almost
it's
as hilly
great.
as North London.
I just
Oh my goodness. There are no
I'm
hills.
glad you're still banging on about
North
that.
London is flat.
There's some very angry Scottish people in the comments of the last video after you
Yeah,
said
I did
that.
see that.
Yes, slightly hillier in Scotland than it is in North London, where Rick lives. Really pathetic.
But yeah, it was great. Love a bit of running in other places.
And you've come back from holiday,
Yeah.
full of snarkiness, I
Yeah.
would say. You
Yeah.
came straight into me. First thing you said was, "Where's my handbag, Andy? I don't know what's going on."
Yeah, and
What's been happening?
where is my handbag, Andy?
Do you want to have it right now?
Yeah. Please run me through. No, I'd like it in writing.
Okay, fine. You can have it in writing after this. The problem was I didn't have very much time to put it into writing last week because I was busy fixing all the messes you left behind.
I thought you were quiet last week. Actually.
I know, it was really difficult.
Just dealing with it.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
dealing with
Just
it.
Brilliant. How are
Yeah.
you? You've had a bit of a niggle post 5k, haven't you?
I have. It's a little bit pathetic. So the video should be out very soon of me running the 5k, and about between 2 and 3k in, I had what felt like a cramp in my hamstring. It turns out I think it was a slight tear, like a small tear in my hamstring. But I managed to soldier on because I'm incredibly brave.
Yeah.
And then, but since then it was pretty sore. So I had 5 or 6 days off running, saw the physio, said nothing to be massively concerned about. I have some exercises to do, which I've been diligently doing every
Have
day.
you actually done them?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, long lever, single leg, hamstring, bridges. And then...
That's a lot of words put together.
yeah.
No one knows
well,
what
I'm not
that
going to
means.
demonstrate it, there's not enough room.
Bit of long lever.
I can safely say me and Rick don't want to see that.
No, fair enough.
That's like the main exercise that I would say if you make eye contact whilst doing a glute bridge in the
awkward.
gym. So awkward.
because
so
it's
awkward.
essentially a hip thrust.
So awkward.
Yeah.
So I've been easing back into it. I did an easy 30 minutes yesterday, which is probably like 9 or 10 days after the race. So now I'm back in the game, hopefully this week, and picking it back up again as it starts to get hotter.
Yeah, well, it is very hot. So I have had a very exciting week of anaerobic and aerobic workouts. Right, so here goes.
I just,
You set yourself up for a
You
bit.
say so many words.
Come on, just
with
calm.
no
Everybody calm.
understanding of what they mean.
Calm down in the corner.
Yeah.
Aerobic with air, running at a steady pace.
Sorry, did you just say aerobic with air?
Yeah, it means with air. Yeah, I am correct.
Right.
Running between 60 and 80% of your maximum
Get
heart
me
rate.
back to Italy.
And using oxygen, anaerobic, without air, so using other energy sources without direct oxygen consumption, generally between 80 to 90% of your top heart rate. Over the weekend, I went all out on a 5K.
I will say we should put a disclaimer against those heart rates. For a start,
roughly
60 to 80 for anaerobic. Anything below 60% by definition is also aerobic as well.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, all right. God, you're just ruining my flow now.
Sometimes you're like what I imagine are like you at 10 years old.
Yeah.
Running in like,
no, so
Mum, Dad, I learned something. Listen to me.
Yes, but my big learn from the weekend, right, I had an all-out 5K, is that when you go into your anaerobic exercise, you are no longer burning fat. You are just burning glucose. So actually, when it comes to, depending on what your aim is, look at Andy's face. He's like, oh my gosh, is he right? Is he right? Honestly, I've double sourced this.
Okay.
I've double sourced it. You're no longer burning fat when you get into your...
Person at the supermarket.
I did 3.8 training effects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this. Look at this on the watch.
Oh my
for aerobic and 2.2 anaerobic.
Okay.
In a 5K.
In a 5K.
Very nice.
Rate those numbers, Andy.
I mean, I'd give you roughly 2.2 and 3.8. I don't know on what scale. Out of 100.
Training effects. That's your training effect.
Yes, it is your training effect.
You're just saying words, but they have no meaning. How was the 5K?
This honestly, go back. This is awful. I've been well into learning about my aerobic and anaerobic over the weekend.
Yeah, but
it was a hot, sweaty, intense 5K, really humid. Sun was out. It was probably about 20 degrees at 9 o'clock. And, I wasn't kind of pushing PB kind of numbers, but I was surprised by those anaerobic and aerobic numbers at that time. It just shows how your body works differently in the heat.
Incredible. Now I'm just thinking about how many disclaimers we need to put in as to like your
honestly,
your fact checking.
That's all double sourced. You're all fine.
Oh, okay.
Double sourced.
Yeah.
Double sourced
Got
from the
some
back
mayo
of cereal
and some
packets.
ketchup on that one.
Yeah. Do you know what? You two haven't brought much science in this episode so far.
Just we brought a lot of useless banter though. But okay, first
was that second tea?
Yeah, you're incredible, mate. You're doing a really good job at setting up the jokes, less of a good job of giving a thorough kind of description of the anaerobic and aerobic energy systems. Just before we do that.
Oh yeah.
You do use glucose when you're exercising aerobically as well. Like that's what you would use glucose as your main energy fuel, energy source during a marathon, for example, which is almost entirely aerobic.
But you
definitely won't be using any fat as an energy source when you're
anaerobic.
When you're doing
so
it.
It's mainly glucose, basically.
Yeah.
You're anaerobic. Yeah, there we go. Great.
Well, whilst we're what I would describe as at the pinnacle of scientific content.
Oh my God.
Please vote for us in the British Podcast Awards. There's no way to kind of subtly go into that. Basically, there's a Listener's Choice Award, and that relies heavily on you listening, watching, tolerating this. Yeah. And if you have tolerated it for 1, 2, maybe all 76 episodes, 1, thank you. Don't know how you've done that. But 2, if you want to go to British Podcast Awards.
Slick.
And just search us. I think that's how you do it. Just search for us.
Yeah, search for
Give
British
us a little
Podcast Awards.
vote.
Yeah, and then there's a drop-down menu, or you can search for us within that.
Yeah.
Every time I go on it with a different email address to vote, it still brings me such joy that you can actually search when we come up. Because when you put in like a lot of big podcasts come up, and then you put in the letter R, and it's us.
Yeah. Winner. I want to just jump before we segue into keeping time, which Rick is going to make us do for this episode.
Yeah.
I feel like I know the reason for Rick's research or level of research on the anaerobic and aerobic conversation there.
Boredom?
He did 2 types of research this weekend.
Right.
One, which I think was roughly 5% of the research time, was aerobic and anaerobic energy systems. 2, 95% of the research time was because we're going out to Malaga at the end of this year for the half marathon and the marathon. We got a lovely message from Rick.
Researching spas.
Yes, you have found the best spa.
Wow. Listen.
Look at his little face.
I appreciate that nice little tea back in my direction after you being rather disparaging towards me over my anaerobic and aerobic research.
If you say those words again,
this
will not end well.
I've left that in one corner. I'm now moving on to Malaga. And listen, Malaga is a fantastic place. If you're coming with us on this trip on the 15th of December this year, you've got an absolute
Is it the 15th?
incredible experience coming up. Because Malaga is a city that blends both old and new. You've got the castle of Gibralfaro. You've got the 1st century Moorish Roman theatre. You've got the Renaissance cathedral dating back to 1528. But at the same time, Malaga is a city that blends some of the best museums in Spain. In fact, per capita, it's got the 2nd most amount of museums of any city in the country.
Can we go separately? Can we send it on a different
Above
week?
all that, though, it has one of Spain's best spas.
There we go.
So let me guess. So we're spending what, 3, maybe 4 days there. How many days are you going to go to museums versus how many days are you going to go to the spa?
Probably not too
I think
many
it's
on the
probably
first.
the same split that you described if I go watch for that 5k.
Well, thanks very
2.8
much
to
to
3.2.
Rick Advisor.
Oh, it's
No?
good.
No?
It's good. It's good. Well, it's better than
Needs a bit of work.
for folliculitis.
You had folliculitis. I'm full of puns.
Yeah.
You know what? I can't tell whether this is good or bad, but I
so sorry.
can tell that it's almost time to
Yeah.
talk about some watching.
Well,
I would say it's probably not been the best episode in which to ask people to vote for the British Podcast Awards, but please, if you like this, then suffer on.
Yeah, suffer on.
Suffer on. Shall we talk about today's topic?
11 minutes in, we made it.
So, this all stemmed from Andy brought in one of his old watches from training, which makes it even more impressive that you made it to the Olympics working off of that.
But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's just it's a bit like smartphones. Do they make our lives better?
I don't know. But it got us thinking, how did people measure distance and time before smartwatches? Like, how did people run? How did people operate? Because they haven't, it's something that a lot of runners, I would say, like if you have a GPS smartwatch or any kind of smartwatch, it's something you rely on, but they haven't been around for that long. So what did we do before?
I
And when
was
I say
really
we,
surprised.
I mean Andy.
Really surprised by the dates in this. So I assumed that smart running watches had been around since the 90s. But actually, the first smart running watch was Garmin introduced in 2003, the Forerunner 101, 2003.
And that wasn't even a smartwatch. That was a GPS capable.
GPS capable,
Yeah.
right.
So I guess the distinction being smartwatch is when it connects to your phone. I think
Is that it?
What's interesting as well is that it's the same thing as like if we went back now and like reinvented the car, like
Yes.
what we know as the car now of like roughly most obviously Robin reliant, outstanding, 4 wheels,
Yes.
steering wheel, like it looks like that. The same with running watches. The Garmin Forerunner 101, it was kind of like a big kind of rectangular computer on your screen.
Yes.
And now actually watches are much smaller. They're either like circular or square. But like, I wonder if we went back and then reinvented it again, whether it would be different, or like what could they look like if
Because they've kind of conformed now to look like a normal watch, right? I think the evolution has been to take something that looked like a computer and then to make it, depending on whether you buy a brightly coloured one or not. You're obviously wearing a brightly coloured one right now. To put it in a context where you could wear it with like smart casual, you could wear it
Oh, that's a whole category in itself.
to work. Like if you worked in the city, you could maybe wear it to a wedding, depending on the ones that you've got.
Smartwatch at a wedding?
I don't think I'd take this off.
Smartwatch at a wedding?
I would probably, unless I
Switch
have
it
been
up.
known to go to the wedding ceremony
Yeah.
for a friend's wedding, then change into my running kit between the wedding ceremony and the wedding breakfast, go for my run, for my second run that day, and then get changed back into my suit again. In which case, yes, I'd have worn a running watch. But then now I'd wear a dress watch, I think.
That's just interesting.
That's when Rick and Sarah really don't think it's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a list here of all sorts of inventions and things. So like going back to, well, quite a long way, but mainly these are computer watch inventions. And then the first GPS one is 2003. But before that, there was all sorts of things like a TV watch from Seiko in 1982, year of my birth.
Wow.
Magical year.
And it had a 1.25 inch LCD screen.
Yes, so there was all sorts of these innovations that all have now come together.
That's
There's been the evolution
wild.
of screen technology, GPS technology, connectivity technology in terms of radio and transmission, and now GPS. So yeah, it's absolutely bonkers.
And then back in 1946, they had the two-way wrist radio watch, which debuted in the American comic strip Dick Tracy, where there was a radio on the watch. Is that it?
I think so. I mean, even I don't remember 1946 or Dick Tracy.
But even that, like, is quite... So that one, it's kind of, again, rectangular, more like a kind of traditional wristwatch, and it's got the clock at the top, kind of like a normal watch. And then what I associate with a radio at the bottom.
Like a
that kind of
speaker,
that
essentially.
speaker kind of thing.
I'm going to age myself even more now because I remember being in school in the 90s, and the teacher would wheel in the TV with the VHS underneath.
Yeah,
and they'd be playing you, like, I don't know, a sex education video or something about red blood cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Something about aerobic fitness.
Yes, red blood cells and aerobic fitness. It's the first thing you've said, which is accurate.
Including the opening 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. And then you'd be all sat as a class, like, I don't know, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. And there was always at least one kid in the class who had for Christmas been given the watch, it was like it
had a remote control.
Yeah, it was a remote control
built
watch, like an infrared remote control watch that can control the TV or the video.
Oh gosh, I remember this.
Yeah. So the teacher would press
see.
play, and then the person in the class would press pause, and then the
put
teacher would look
neighbours
at it. Yes, they'd just be messing about.
How would I describe Neighbours to a US audience? Anyone listening to this in the US?
Daily Australian TV soap.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, it would get switched
Well, that's
up.
actually quite simple.
Yeah, yeah.
And it spawned the lots of big pop stars.
Yeah, like Kylie.
Yeah.
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 Delta Goodrem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she might be the highest selling Australian artist of all time. I could have made that up.
This has gone wrong.
Gosh. So obviously before Garmin released the Forerunner 101 though, a lot of people were just having to like actually use time in order to go out for a run. Now, Owen...
Yeah, me included. So I'd just go out and run. I think we talked about this, but I would just run for an hour. So my hour run, I had a set route that I did, and it would take me anywhere between 55 and 65, 70 minutes.
You just have a normal watch.
Does that mean though that your route would you ever do like a really interesting route? Or was it like in a 10K would it have 4 turns because that's what you could remember? Or would you go out and do it and then plot it afterwards to work out how far it was?
Neither of those things. I just had nice routes that I ran. So I would run it for the first time and be like, oh, that was about an hour. Cool. That's my 1 hour route.
Right.
And I lived near some beautiful places to run in Southwest London at the time, not hilly. And we would just go and run it. And then, it would be about an hour. And I never once measured them, ever.
Really?
So I would have just been like, that was an hour. I know that I run about, at that point in my career, about around 6 to 7 minute miling. So I'd call it 9 miles.
But Andy, wasn't that quite a nice way to run? Because there's no pressure. And lots of people will still run
think
without a watch now.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I did more. I've definitely been guilty of doing easy runs too hard because when you do have the data right there, like if you're going out and your sole aim for that hour is to literally just run, there probably were some days where you were running closer to 7 and there are probably some days where you're running closer to like sub 6 minute miling.
Yeah, Andy would have always said to me, just run as you feel. So it would have been because those steady runs for me or easy runs were sandwiched between really hard workout days. So it would really depend on how fresh I felt. And some days I'd run a bit faster because I felt all right. And other days I felt awful. So I was, barely dragging myself around.
Slogging it out.
But then, back when we were at school, it was because people didn't have smartwatches. Actually, when you did a cross-country race, the only time you'd work out your true fitness was off the distance and the time you got on the race in a Saturday, and the distance was just walked out by one of those rolly,
like a trundle wheel.
Yeah, trundle wheel.
Well,
yeah,
I
and
don't
then you
even
go, well, if it's 8K, then you'd work out what your speed was over 8K at the end of the day. But your only reference point would be your races.
Yeah, and I even then though, I don't. Growing up in my teens, I don't. Apart from unless I was racing on the track, cross country, or even like random road races, you just ran and. You got a result and you did get a time, but I couldn't remember any of the times because they weren't a set distance either. Like you'd run the local county cross country and it was probably, 5.72 kilometres.
Yeah, they tell you though how long it was, wouldn't they?
I never looked. I was just cared about trying to
win.
Yeah.
We've also got some incredible forums that we've done some research into, and I just love seeing how different people do it because I feel like for some people they'd be happy with that. They would just go run if they're being competitive. For other people, they really wanted to know. So someone said, when I started running in 1976, the struggle was real. I would look at the clock on the wall in the living room, go run and look at the clock again. Then I would do some fancy calculations such as, let's see, it was 5 minutes past 7 when I left and now it's 10 after 8. So I ran for over an hour at a pretty good pace. So let's call it 12 miles.
Oh, they weren't hanging about. They did say, okay, not 12 miles, but I probably overestimated the distance.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the case for me, I think I overestimated some things and underestimated others. But in terms of keeping a training log during the week and knowing roughly how many miles I covered, that was my approach.
It does bring it back to like running on feel though. Like there's other people who have used like a map measure, the like trundle wheel thing to measure it out.
Oh no, I think this person, so it's a handheld thing that you literally, I remember using this for my exams in my like, it was either, geography GCSE or A-level. So my exams are like 16 or 18, where you had to work out the distance between A and B on a paper map, like an OS map. And it was like, it's literally a wheel that you'd have to calibrate to the scale of the map that you're using, or read off the right point of it. And you'd literally wheel it along the road that you'd walked on, or the path that you'd walked on, and it would tell you.
You'd have to calibrate the wheel yourself.
Well, I think you had to read off the correct line on the reading of it based on the scale of the OS map that you're using.
Wow.
To give you the...
Sarah, is that just
cool,
blowing your
though.
mind?
Yeah.
Because have you ever run without a watch?
No. Well, yes, but then also I would have run with a smartphone. So like I've gone out for runs with people recently where they're like, I haven't charged my watch.
When did you start running? What year?
2017.
Oh my goodness.
Was my first run. So if we go back to the list, the
1990.
Apple Watch was released in 2015. So I was well into the swing of
the
smartwatches.
iPhone was released in about 2007.
Yeah.
So my first run, 1993. county cross country.
But when I was doing, but all the running that I'd done previous to that was on like a track at school.
Yeah.
And then I remember the first run that I ever did, I didn't have a watch, but I think actually that was the rise of, I might have had a Fitbit. Because before Fitbits came out with a screen on them, it was all about step count. I think actually the first kind of runs that I tracked, I had one of the ones where it just had lights on it. So to this day, I will still bet that my stride length is roughly a metre. So if I've done 10,000 steps, I've done 10K.
Oh.
I don't know how accurate that is, but
well, then we should put that to the test.
That's what I started off doing when I was
your stride
running.
length about 6 metres, isn't it?
My stride length varies massively on pace. When I'm running really fast, it's close to 2 metres.
That's just mad, isn't it?
Bring the stats for your 5K, what your stride length was, versus your all-out 1K.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, we should take a look at that. I've got another one here, which is it's an interesting point. There's another forum post about pacing out routes on their bike, which had an odometer scale of 1 to 100th of a mile, 1 to 100 for a mile. So you have to calibrate it as it depends on your wheels and tyres, and it varies slightly depending on tyre pressure even. What's interesting here, obviously there's a lot of effort to go and measure out a route first on your bike to know exactly how far it is. But this is how, to my knowledge anyway, maybe not the very biggest races like London Marathon or New York Marathon, but a lot of proper races in the UK at least, this is how they measure the distance.
Really?
So they would have a qualified route measurer who would have a bike. And
what are the qualifications that you have to get to be an official route measurer?
I don't know. I'd say we should
not need stabilisers.
I'm envisaging some kind of very official high vis.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's exams or anything, but I'm pretty sure that that person has, or there is they'll use a known accurate route that they know exactly is a 1 kilometre or a mile, or not even, doesn't have to be exactly right, but they know to the nearest centimetre how long that route is.
I see.
And they'll calibrate their bike on that route.
Right.
To know that based on the tyre pressure and the bike that they're riding, how many revolutions of the wheel of their bike are exactly correspond to that distance. Yeah. And that gives them their exact calibration to then go and cycle the racing line route if it's painted on a route or whatever for the 10K or for a marathon distance or whatever.
I wonder though how much your tyre pressure changes on a marathon.
I think
with the potholes in the UK.
I think they do it before and after. So I'm pretty sure they would recalibrate afterwards to make sure exactly that nothing had happened.
Interesting. Well, if there's one thing that smartwatches have given us, it's the ability to be far more lazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Rick did not need smartwatches to help him to do that.
He was still sat in his hot tub.
In fairness, though, to bring it back to the beginning, Rick, for all his sins, is definitely not lazy if he's knocking out 2.2 anaerobics in a 5K.
It's actually training effect.
And you want to know...
It's not. Training effect is split into anaerobic and aerobic.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, okay.
Should we just finish on... So... God. So we've had loads of developments in smartwatches, but also what's really exciting is that apparently in 2030, smartwatch revenue will surpass $64 billion.
You say it's really exciting. It's not like we're making that money.
No, I know, but I just think that shows like people's interest in it is not dwindling.
No.
So smartwatches are here to stay.
Yeah.
Should we talk about some news and some questions?
Let's do it. Andy, what have you got?
I have got some news from the US Olympic trials. That's what's happening now. I've got two pieces of news that I've just thought of. So first news is about the Olympic trials. The second piece is related. So the US Olympic trials are happening now. Really cutthroat system out there. In the UK, it's slightly different. There are some discretionary places in the UK. So if you're a really high profile athlete, like Josh Kerr, who won the 1500 metres at the World Championships last year, he's been given special permission to do the 800 metres at the UK Olympic trials because he knows that he'll still get picked for the 1500 metres.
I see.
If you did that in the US,
yeah,
you don't get picked. So in the US, first three past the line who have the qualifying time are picked.
It's just
if you
that
don't
simple.
have the time,
Yeah.
So then will he be doing the 800 metres because he wants to compete in the 800 and the 15?
No, he's doing the 800 to prepare. He thinks that's his best possible preparation for the Olympics.
Oh, right, fine.
Actually, I did that in 2008. I did exactly the same thing. So I'd been given dispensation by Team GB that I would be picked for the 1500 metres. So I then did the 800 metres and I came second in the Olympic trials in 2008 for the 800.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was
What
right.
is it?
So then you didn't get put in the 800?
No, I didn't have the qualifying time, I don't think, at that point. For
You
the
still
800,
came
but
Isn't
I
that
did it for-
hilarious? Like your top three of the 800 in the thingy, in the trial, but then you don't get put in it.
Well, I didn't want to do it. The timetable.
Sorry, guys. I know I'm second, but I just don't
I just
really
don't want
feel
that.
like
I don't need that medal.
I don't need it. I just don't.
It's just not for me.
I've just got too many things
Yeah. It
going
was
on.
practice
Just put
because-
me in the 1500.
Oh my
I might
goodness.
turn up for that
That
one.
is mad. I barely get my head around that.
The way some 1500 metre races were run,
Right.
more so back in when I was running than now,
Yeah.
was that the first few laps would be quite slow.
Right.
And then you're essentially left with 800 metres to race.
Oh, right, fine.
So being good at 800 metres was important for being able to be competitive against the best guys in the world.
Got
so
it.
it's the US Olympic trials. The 100 metres are what I was excited about, which have just happened over the weekend before recording this podcast. And I think that it's interesting because Noah Lyles is probably one of the biggest stars in track and field right now. World champion over 100 metres and he's won multiple medals over 200 metres. He was 7th in the 100 metres at the US Olympic trials in 2021.
Right.
So he's looking for a bit of redemption, especially because now he is the big poster boy.
Mm-hmm.
And he won the US Olympic trials for the men over 100 metres. He equalled his PB and ran 9.83. So
Wow.
phenomenal time.
Yeah.
And then sort of similar redemption story for Sha'Carri Richards, who won the women's race at the US Olympic trials in 10.71, which is a world lead this year.
Nice.
And also she won the trials in 2021 for Tokyo for the Olympics, but didn't go because she tested positive for marijuana in between or at the trials.
Ooh.
So she's then sort of since then been working her way back to being the best in the world. So yeah.
I mean, testing positive for marijuana, I just wonder
Oh, we're going to touch on this.
how much of a negative effect that's going to have or a positive effect on your ability to train.
Yeah,
I feel like it's just a rule, though. It's like at school,
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
really going to have an effect either way, but it's still.
I don't know how many people would consider marijuana to be a performance enhancer, but it's an illegal drug.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
or illegal in some places, and it's on the banned list that you can't take it. Whether or not you could make a case for if someone was a very nervous athlete.
Yeah, sure, it's going to like
that whether
slow you
marijuana would
down and
actually
chill
help.
you out.
Yeah, but so I don't know.
No, interesting.
So that's news story number one.
Yeah,
News story number two. Yeah.
genuine question.
Stop it.
Is
this exciting? Does this involve
Sarah
me?
know
Yeah.
this at
She
all?
knows that it might have been on the cards, but while she's been on holiday, we have confirmed that the Running Channel podcast will be going on tour to the Paris Olympics.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Are we actually?
I love the way we're actually telling you this in
we're
real
going
time.
on holiday to do some very serious work.
Hang on, you spent too much time with Rick. So yeah, we will be
Great.
doing.
Have you looked up spas in Paris?
Yeah,
Excellent.
they're a bit more expensive than Malaga.
Ah,
Yeah.
gutting.
So we'll be doing a daily podcast from the Running Channel does Paris. So we'll be doing it.
Great.
We'll be doing it out there. We'll be covering what happens at the games
Yeah.
every day. Our honest, I guess, reaction. Hopefully, we get to speak to some athletes out there as well.
Amazing.
So we'll be taking you, the amazing listeners and viewers of the Running Channel podcast, with us to hopefully experience something that
Are you
I've
coming?
experienced as an athlete
Yes.
and as a what's that?
Did you just ask me, am I coming?
Are we not ditching him?
I should
The big question as well is that we've talked about the Olympics before. We get very excited about it. However, I'm very aware that it's not as spoken about, or it's not quite as, I guess, like big as, say, the Euros that are going on right now. But we want it in terms of athletics, but we want it to be as interesting for you. So if you're someone who we've said we're going to the Olympics and you're a bit like, how can we make you fall in love with the Olympics? What do you want to know about? What is the gossip that you want to hear about?
She's taking this and run with it.
What are the questions that you want to ask? Like, having gone to the thing that we went last year that I can't remember the name of.
Championships in Budapest. Yeah.
My gosh, have we swapped seats?
Sorry, remember, I'm the annoying one, not the dumb one.
Who's the dumb one, Andy?
Having gone to the World Champs last year, the determination, dedication, and just the performance of these athletes is incredible. So to be able to give you some insight into that is going to be a real honour. But let us know how we can do that for you.
Yeah, we're not a track and field podcast. That's not what we're going to do. We're aiming to...
If you want to know how anaerobic versus aerobic the 800 metre finalists
if you want to hear Rick ask some of the most famous athletes in the world some questions about
what their training effect is.
Yeah. What's your TE, mate?
TE. What's your TE?
Have you got a pulse like an ox?
No, crocodile.
Actually, I mean, if we don't ask every single athlete, are you sock, shoe, or sock, shoe?
What's your pulse ox? Yeah.
Wasn't there an evolution of that recently?
Yes, actually. So if you, regardless of what order you've done, I feel less strongly about this one, I'm going to say. But sock, shoe.
Yeah.
Is it sock, shoe, tie? Or is it shoe, tie?
Controversial, never untie my shoes. So it would just be sock, shoe.
I don't know whether we can say that. That's so bad.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And actually, do you want to know what's made me realise how bad it is that when my Achilles was a little bit bad, I was tying my shoes either like with a runner's knot or a bit tighter. So it made me unable to just pull them on. Yeah. And I got so frustrated by it, but it was helping. So I do need to untie them.
Yes.
Shoe tie.
Oh. Really? So you're there with two shoe... No. So you
tie it before you put your next shoe on.
No.
Yeah.
Shoe tie. So one foot is fully tied and the other one's just a little sock.
Yes.
I didn't think I felt
around.
strongly about it, but now I've heard you describe that. I don't like it.
I think that's fine. Anyway.
Or elastic laces.
Big news. Exciting.
Very exciting.
So 12 days, a podcast every day. Wow, that's a lot of podcasting.
That's a lot of editing for you, mate. Me and Andy will be in the spa.
Big times.
10 days.
Right.
10 days.
Is it 10 days?
10 days, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, great.
Are we not going to do a little extra too? You can record those by yourself.
10 days, there we go. 10
anyway,
days.
I'm just going to do...
Right, yes, sorry. Wrap it up. On to your questions. Jake from Sheffield. I will be moving to the Paradise Peninsula in the next few weeks. Oh my gosh.
Is that Liverpool?
No, it's the Wirral.
Right. But that's basically Liverpool.
Sarah, I think you're doing this just to push up. Rick doesn't have any buttons to push anymore.
That was the most disappointed you've ever said my name. Sarah, come on, we've talked about this.
Annoying one, pipe down. My question is based around running slow. I've just come back from a knee injury, which kept me out for a month. However, in the last 4 weeks, I've been building back up my running pain-free. Since my return, I have found running slow really hard and boring.
Yeah.
I'm much like Andy and prefer to run faster, but can any of you give me advice on how I can look forward and enjoy my slow, easy runs? First up, Jake, you're in for a treat, my friend.
The Paradise Peninsula.
You're moving to the Paradise Peninsula, which has some of, genuinely, the best running trails of anywhere in the country. You've got the Wirral Way, you've got all the seafront to run on.
Plus, it's really
you've got
nice.
Thurston, all the parks. It's absolutely amazing. So, well played, mate. You're in for a treat.
Down by the docks of Liverpool is really nice as well.
Oh, it's not in Liverpool. It's not in Liverpool.
Who could we take to Paris instead?
Yeah, actually, you can vote. You can vote for that. My first piece of advice would be listen to the Running Channel podcast. A little bit self-serving.
Well, they're obviously already doing that because they've emailed in.
Oh, yeah, but save it for your runs?
Yeah. Next.
Okay, that's it. Done. Question answered.
No, I think a combination of like find some nice views, get some good podcasts that you maybe save for those runs as well. So you can only go for a run. You can only listen to that podcast if you go for a run.
Yeah.
And
could run every day during the first few weeks of July. First few weeks of August for the Olympics.
Yeah. Or maybe I found easy runs so much better if I planned a fun route and then changed my watch setting so I was just looking at the time.
Yeah.
Or I was looking at
That's
a
a good
metric
shout.
which I had.
Just the time,
like,
yeah.
just don't look at pace. Look
Yeah,
at like heart
don't be
rate.
bothered by it.
Look at a metric that you don't understand. Your TE, for example.
Yeah, or just give each run a purpose. If that
Yeah.
purpose, if you're working towards, like, you have to. If you skip ahead and run fast too soon, you'll be hurt and you won't be able to run at all.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has a
Yeah.
purpose on that stepping stone, on that ladder back to doing the bits that you like doing. That's how I always used to get through it. I had to do it to be as good as I wanted to be at all the other stuff.
An A to B run's quite fun as well.
Yeah,
like, could you switch it up? If I'm guessing you're probably not running as far as you've done before as well. So if like previously you would have been running for 60 minutes, could you run out somewhere for 30 minutes and then get the train back? Or do they have hire bikes in the Paradise Peninsula?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you'll get someone to drop you off and then run home.
Oh, yeah, and then run back.
Because
Yeah.
if you are running for 30 minutes, a 30-minute loop ends up feeling quite small.
Yeah.
But 30 minutes in a straight line, you get quite a long way.
I think he's going to have a great time because it'd be completely refreshed. If he's moving from one part of the country to another,
Yeah.
you get to explore a load of new places, and it is just a lovely place to run. And if you are coming back from an injury and you are currently pain-free as well, you're going to want to keep doing your S&C, strength and conditioning, in order to make sure that you stay pain-free. That's Jake. Hope you have a great move. Moving on to Kieran from Dublin.
Up next, just before the news, it's currently 5 past the hour. You're listening to Rick Kelsey on the Running Channel
If you run
podcast.
a 4:05 for 5:04 marathon time.
That's what I'm going for at the moment. 23:05, trying to get under 23:05 actually. Anyway,
For a marathon.
no, 23:05 in 5K.
All right.
Yeah. Because you said to me, you want to do hit 22 something? Why would I want to hit 22 something? I can go under 23:05.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kieran from Dublin. I'm not sure if you guys have discussed this before, but what are your thoughts on wooden medals? They're becoming more popular with race events at the minute due to them being eco-friendly. I think they take away from the race day slightly, especially for runners racing for the first time. Anyway, really interested to hear your thoughts.
I love a wooden medal.
We're a little bit biased though, aren't we, Sarah?
Yeah, well, we are about to do an event where we have a wooden medal. However,
Yeah.
I think the main reason I like a wooden medal is because how many metal medals have you ever got where they're not shaped in a circle?
Oh, loads.
Yeah, there are quite a lot of
Really?
variety.
Yeah, the Kew Gardens 10K last
What
year.
shape is
It was a
that?
heart.
Oh, that's quite cool. Yeah, but you're not getting like jagged edges, are you?
I see what you mean.
Personally, I like the wooden medals. We made the decision to do that for a race that we're putting on, which will be on a video on the Running Channel very soon, because of the eco credentials, but also just I think they're tactile. Like, I think that they're really nice to physically handle. They also don't chip stuff if you throw them in your bag with your phone.
Yeah.
Then
I think as well, sometimes you can like our race is really small, so it doesn't really make a difference. But
Yeah.
for like a really big race where you've got thousands of people,
Yeah.
I feel like if you mass produce a wooden metal, it sometimes can look better and the quality can feel better than a mass produced like mixture of metal and plastic.
It has to
Personally.
have something quite weighty though, isn't it, with the metal one?
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
you know, if you've
Mix
got
it up.
loads,
I
if
think
you've
it's
got
nice to
loads of
mix it up.
medals, your walls are going to start falling down.
It's nice to mix it up.
However, I will say some of the best medals I've ever seen have been for virtual challenges.
Yes.
And I would like, and I'm guessing it's because it's much smaller, the amount of people doing them, but they
yeah.
have like books that open and
Yeah.
kind of they do it for different films or like different book series.
That is true.
They're great.
I was looking at one of the virtual challenges that we did during the first lockdown on the Running Channel in April 2020. It was just before the London Marathon. I think it was kind of an Adidas 1 hour run. We filmed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Do you remember
1
making
hour
that?
challenge,
And you
yeah.
had to run as far as you could.
in 1
Yeah.
hour. So you
In
didn't
1
get a
hour.
finished time, you got a finished distance.
You got to finish distance. And I was looking at that medal yesterday. I was going through my medals because you were going to talk about this today. And that was quite a funky medal.
Was
And
it?
was basically just for running an hour.
I
Yeah.
feel like as long as it's got a funky shape, I don't care what
Yeah,
it is.
but then looking back to it, also kind of looking back to April 2020, you were going, oh my gosh, like virtual runs were rubbish, weren't they? I thought, no, controversial.
Well, they raised a lot of
No.
money, some of them, for charity.
Yeah, well, I mean that was because it was
all that you could do.
It was
Yeah.
all you could do. So it was better than doing
Yeah.
nothing. But now you wouldn't want to go back to that now.
No, I'd want like a
yeah.
mixture
Yeah,
of like, I
yeah.
feel like it's nice to do one in person and then potentially nice to do one. But I have some epic t-shirts from virtual races.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Right. That was fun. Well, I mean, I feel like we got through a lot today.
Yes,
We
we
did.
did.
Yeah.
It's quite a long one.
And on that note, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to vote for us in the British Podcast Awards. Thanks, bye.
Bye.